To talk to you today, make a short video. It's predominantly aimed at first time backpackers, hikers, but other people can benefit from it as well. And that is to practice and test your gear before you use it on the trail. It seems pretty obvious, but so many people don't. Okay, number one off the rank is your backpack. Now that's obviously important. Before you go out with that, you need to practice and test. Obviously, as you know, you're going to load the heavy stuff closest to your back. We know all that. There's plenty of videos out there on how to pack them. But I would say a key thing to that is your wet weather gear. You want that on hand at the top of your pack or on the outside of your pack in a pocket. Don't pack it away under everything else. And as I've also said before, know where you're going to hike, the terrain, and practice for that. If you're going away for a multi-day hike, 4 or 5 days, pack up with all the stuff you're going to use for that hike and try and replicate the terrain that you'll be going on. If you're going in soft sand, then take that pack out with that weight in it. It doesn't have to be the exact, you know, the food and water. It can be you make that weight up with other things, but make that weigh it and make that weight up and walk in soft sand or up hills or whatever it is. But test it out, make sure you can handle it. Don't just assume you can. That's what I'm trying to say to you. Practice and test, as I say. That's the first thing with a backpack, because that's going to be the hardest thing for you, carrying that weight on your back. And that's something you have to test, otherwise you're going to fall short on your hike and you're not going to enjoy it. These aren't in any particular order, but the second one I want to talk to you about is food. That sounds pretty simple, and it is. You eat it, but as I say, test all your food before you go on the trail. That's not testing it for poisons. We're not worrying about that. What we're worrying about is that you like the damn stuff when you open it up. There's nothing worse when you've been on a long hike. The one thing you do look forward to at the end of that long day's hike is some good food. But don't just go and grab stuff, hydrated food, grab packets of that from the camping store or food off the shelf in the supermarket without trying it. There's nothing worse than the end of the day. I've done it. Nothing worse than the end of the day opening up a hydrated meal, pouring the water in, waiting for it to, and when it's bloody awful. And that ruins it for you, because you can't, as you know, with the weight factor, you can't take extra food. You basically, if you're going for 5 days, you've got 5 days food, or maybe a couple of extra meals, but you want to make sure you enjoy it. So try the food out before you go. Make sure you can cook it okay, and I say test it out, because there's nothing bloody worse than eating crap food that you haven't tested beforehand. And number 3, another one, first aid kit. You don't need a great big first aid kit, for sure, but what you have got in it, you need to know how to use. So practice with that. I mean, if you're carrying a triangular bandage for a broken arm, then know how to use it. The same if you're carrying a mouthpiece to resuscitate someone, then know how to use it. And going on from that, I would say if you're going to do a lot of multi-day hikes, and it is for you, but it's also for your fellow hikers, especially if you're a long way away from civilization, then I would say it's not a bad idea to do a first aid course. so that you know the basics. There'll be nothing more frustrating than someone getting sick on the trail and you can't help. So that's another one to think about. The same with your maps, phone apps, or whatever else you use for navigation. Make sure you know how to use them. Practice and test them out. Make sure you know. Don't just stagger out there with the maps and think you know. You have to know. If you're using a map and compass, then know how to use it. Test it out and make sure you know everything about it before you head out on the trail. If you get it wrong off the trail, no problem. But when you're out on the trail, a long way from anywhere, and you get it wrong, there could be consequences to that. Trekking poles, there's another one. Don't just go and grab some trekking poles and take them out. Know how to use them correctly. Practice going uphill, practice going downhill, and test them out before you go. It's the only way to go. And I'll make a video a bit later on how to do that. But as I say, make sure you know how to use your trekking poles. Otherwise, you know, that's when accidents happen, when you don't use them correctly. Or not necessary accidents, but when you're carrying a heavy weight, your body suffers because you're using them the wrong way. And when it's on a multi-day hike, you don't want that. They're there to help you. So that's another thing to remember. Your sleeping system, make sure you know how to use that. Make sure you know how to inflate your air mattress or whatever, how it's going to go together. Try out your sleeping bag and test it out. Practice. And the big one is your tent. Know how to use it. When I first got my tent, I practiced heaps of times putting up in the garden, seeing how fast, or even timing myself, see how fast I could get it up. And that's in the fine weather, but as you know, you may be putting your tent up in the fine weather, but a lot of times you're not. You're putting it up in rain and wind, and that's what you've got to allow for. As I say, you have to think about that in the bad weather. How are you going to put that tent up? So I'd say that's a really important one, your sleeping system. Having that off pat. Have it in the right place in your bag, at the bottom of your bag, say there's a bottom zip where you can get to it at the end of the day. You don't want to have to be spreading all your gear out on the ground to get to your tent and ground sheet. Because, as I say, if it's raining and windy, it's really bloody complicated. And it can get nasty for you. Let's just say it's not fun anyway. So yeah, that's just a few points I wanted to bring up, as I say. Predominantly for new backpackers, hikers. But it's something, you know, we all do. So this is Tony G, Hike and Seeker, signing out again. Thanks for watching, and have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.